Now let's look at a paper that applies these sort of ideas. So, if some regions in Europe are richer than others, does geography play a role in keeping it that way? Now, in the late 20th century, there was a growing interest in whether European regions were converging economically. Early convergence studies assumed that regions were independent observations. But Ray and Montori asked, what happens if they aren't independent of each other? This paper shows how spatial dependence and spatial clustering shape regional income dynamics. And it's a really good application of what we've been talking about in this module. Now, the traditional idea of convergence was that poor regions should grow faster than richer ones. But that theory assumes a lot of things. For instance, that regions are isolated from each other, that they're really independent, when in reality they trade with each other, they share labor markets, and they exchange knowledge. And it's going to be different who they trade with, what labor markets they're connected to, what sort of knowledge they exchange based on where they're located and who their neighbors are. Ray and Montori bring geography into the analysis where it's lacking before, treating regressions as spatially linked units where neighbors influence each other and exert more influence on each other than countries that are farther away. To detect those relationships of neighbors influencing each other, they use tools from spatial statistics like Moran's I and LISA. So they use the Moran scatter plot to visibly show the relationship of these countries to each other. So they plot each region's income on the x-axis against the average income of its neighbors. The slope of the line that runs through all these points equals Moran's I. This visualization helps reveal how spatial clustering happens and which regions contribute to it. While Moran's I gives a number for all of Europe, LISA tells us where the clustering is the strongest. LISA decomposes Moran's I into a local statistic for each region. Using LISA, the results from it, Ray and Montori find a clear core periphery structure in Europe. So basically, high-income core in the northern and central European region, and then a low-income periphery in the southern and eastern regions. When we think about long-run economic development or economic growth, we usually think about time, how long it takes, that sort of process. But we often ignore the importance of space, who a country's or region's neighbors are. Where you are still shapes the opportunity you have. The same ESDA tools are now used to study modern issues like regional inequality, housing affordability, or industrial clustering. And in all these questions, where you are shapes what your outcomes are going to be. So I want you to think about how you might apply these methods in your own regional urban research questions. And something that's really cool about this paper is how they use these maps and these figures to be able to demonstrate to you as the reader very quickly how important geography is.